Discipline, the key to self-mastery. Discipline is not punishment. It is alignment. It is the quiet agreement between who you are today and who you refuse to betray tomorrow. Most people think discipline is about force, about denial, about restriction. But discipline is actually about coherence. It is what happens when your actions stop contradicting your values, when your days stop arguing with your intentions, and when your life begins to move in one direction instead of pulling itself apart. Movement 1. The descent. Before anything can rise, it has to be set right. Before strength can be built, weakness has to be faced. This part of the journey isn't about feeling good. It's about getting honest. We go down first, not to be punished, but to find what's real, to clean what's been neglected, to fix what's been leaking. This is where discipline begins, not as motivation, but as truth. Everything begins with return, the act of showing up again, not when it's exciting, not when it's rewarded, but when it's ordinary. This is how consistency is formed, not through declarations, but through repetition. A life is not shaped by what is decided once, but by what is returned to daily. What you repeat becomes familiar. What becomes familiar becomes normal, and what becomes normal becomes identity. Most lives never stabilize long enough to discover this. They move from burst to burnout, from inspiration to abandonment, never staying with anything long enough for it to become part of them. Consistency is not intensity. Intensity burns fast. Consistency builds foundations. From consistency, attention begins to settle. A scattered mind leaks effort everywhere. A focused mind gathers force. Focus is not the absence of distraction. It is the refusal to be governed by it. It is choosing one thing long enough for depth to replace novelty. It is the discipline of narrowing the beam until what matters most can finally be seen clearly. Without focus, life feels busy and unfinished. Days are full but hollow. Effort is spent without arrival. With focus, minutes gain weight, decisions sharpen, energy stops spilling and starts landing. Then, patience enters the picture, not as waiting, not as delay, but as endurance through the middle. The middle is where most people disappear. The part where progress goes quiet, where results stop announcing themselves, where effort no longer brings applause, where quitting would feel reasonable. Patience is staying anyway, not frozen, not passive, but committed while growth is invisible. Patience teaches a man that mastery is not rushed, that foundation set slowly, that anything worth lasting must be allowed to mature. Time reveals everything after that. Time does not argue. It does not negotiate. It does not explain. It simply records. Time turns intention into evidence. And discipline teaches a man to command his hours before his hours command him. A life without structure feels free. Until years pass without direction. Until potential expires unused. Until regret arrives without warning. A disciplined man learns early that what he does with his time is what he does with his life. Skill is born in that awareness. Not from talent alone, but from repetition that survives boredom. From effort that stays present long enough to be refined. Skill is effort that learned how to land. It is failure adjusted instead of avoided. It is practice done without audience. It is hands that know their work because they have done it wrong long enough to finally do it right. Skill becomes competence when responsibility enters the equation, when excuses stop working, when results matter, when outcomes affect others. Competence is reliability under obligation. It is the moment life trusts you with weight. Projects that must be finished, decisions that cannot be undone, people who depend on follow-through. Competence is not perfection, it is dependability. From competence, confidence emerges. Not loud confidence, not borrowed confidence. Not confidence built on approval. Confidence built from memory, from promises kept to yourself, from pressure survived, from knowing what you can carry because you already have. This confidence does not announce itself, it settles. It steadies posture, it slows speech, it removes the need to prove, and that confidence leaves a trail. Patterns travel ahead of a man, character leaves residue, reputation forms whether you participate or not. It is the story your discipline tells about you when you are not present to edit it. People notice who finishes, who simplifies chaos, who brings stability, who creates friction. Reputation moves quietly through rooms you have never entered. It opens doors without knocking or closes them without explanation. From reputation, trust forms. Trust grows where reliability removes fear, where monitoring is no longer necessary, where others can lean without bracing. Trust is confidence shared. When trust is present, energy multiplies. Collaboration accelerates. Vulnerability becomes possible without danger. When trust is absent, everything slows. Rules multiply. Guardrails thicken. People protect themselves instead of building. Respect arrives quietly after that. Not demanded, not negotiated. Earned authority, quiet dignity. Rooms adjust without being commanded. Standards rise without being announced. Voices lower, attention sharpens. This is not dominance. It is gravity. Movement 2, the ascent. At some point, something shifts. The chaos quiets. The ground firms up. Discipline stops correcting mistakes and starts building strength. From here on, the work changes. We're no longer fixing what's broken. We're constructing what's possible. The body responds first. Health returns, not as appearance, but as capacity. Breath steadies, sleep repairs. Energy sustains instead of spikes. A body cared for cooperates with intention. A mind rested thinks clearly under pressure. Discipline restores vitality before it ever restores aesthetics. Wealth follows when panic leads decision-making. Not money alone, order. Resources align with values. Spending becomes intentional. Saving becomes protection, not fear. Investment becomes patience with a long horizon. Wealth stops being escape and becomes stewardship. Peace settles in next, not the absence of struggle, but the absence of inner war. Life stops arguing with itself. Decisions simplify. Reactions soften. The mind rests because fewer things are misaligned. Leadership emerges naturally from that stillness, through service, through example, through authority that stabilizes environments instead of dominating them. People follow clarity before they follow charisma. Self-respect anchors the soul after that. The private agreement not to abandon yourself. The creative odds. The refusal to tolerate erosion in solitude. Integrity practice where no one is watching changes posture everywhere else. Then mastery arrives. Self-mastery is where power stops leaking. Not outward power, inner power. Desire is no longer obeyed blindly. Emotion informs, but does not command. Sexual energy, ambition, impulse are no longer scattered. They are directed. A man learns to hold heat without chaos, to pause, to choose, to govern himself. Desire is not suppressed, it is given a destination. Purpose clarifies next, not as excitement, but as coherence. The work you are willing to suffer for without resentment. Purpose removes waste. It simplifies decisions. It gives discipline a reason to endure. Calling answers where that purpose belongs, where ability meets the man, where responsibility keeps returning until it is accepted. Calling is placement. The moment a man realizes he is building through himself, not merely for himself. Legacy widens the horizon beyond the self. Bloodlines, ideas, institutions. Memory. What continues because you lived? Legacy is discipline projected forward. It is the refusal to live small simply because the future cannot argue back. And finally, destiny. Not fantasy, not prophecy, but fulfillment without regret. Destiny is what remains when excuses are exhausted and alignment is complete. A man standing in destiny is not frantic, not chasing, not proving. He is present, and that is the work of discipline. Not to constrain life, but to give it shape. Not to break the man, but to reveal him. Discipline is the key because it opens everything that matters. So now you know what discipline truly is. Not punishment, not restriction, not force, but agreement. Agreement between your word and your action, between your intention and your follow-through, between the man you claim to be and the man your life keeps proving. Discipline is not something you add to your life. It is something you stop breaking. You do not need more motivation. You do not need more information. You do not need a new version of yourself. You need alignment. Because every day, whether you name it or not, you are casting a vote for chaos or coherence, a vote for drift or direction, a vote for erosion or legacy. And the vote that counts most is not the loud one. It is the quiet one, the repeated one, the unseen one, the one you cast when no one is watching, when quitting would be easy, when discipline would be inconvenient. That is where lives are decided. So do not leave here inspired, leave aligned. Do not promise perfection, promise return. Return to what you said mattered. Return to what you know is right. Return to the work that waits for you. Because discipline does not ask you to become someone else. It only asks this: will you stop abandoning yourself? If you answer that question honestly, not once, but daily, everything else will follow. And the door will open